At VAUSH, they've been colonizing other countries for centuries. It's not Putin's mentality. What the... All right, Vicky Radosh, you get to be the main character of the next 5 minutes. How much of a chauvinist do you have to be to essentialize Russian imperial sentiment to the entire ethnic group and pretend, speaking to an American in a chat full of Americans, that colonizing must essentially impugn the morality of the descendants of those colonizers? Where are you from? Where are your ancestors from? The Polish Empire? What? The English Empire? What, are you from Spain or Portugal? Not France, I hope. What the f are you talking about? We colonized the planet. Russia was a infant compared to England, and now Russia today is an infant compared to us. We're so powerful we don't even need a military to conquer anything. Our trade deals single-handedly bankrupt or elevate countries, and all you have to do is kiss ass to neoliberalism to get in the in crowd. What do you, like, what, how could you possibly, what mentality, what Russian essential mentality? Why? They're Ukrainian? I don't care if they're Ukrainian. Do you think you get to be, what, ethnically prejudiced just because your country is being invaded? I will personally walk up to every single racist Ukrainian after this conflict is over, and I will beat the shit out of them in Minecraft for being racist if they are racist. Not if they're not racist. And also only in Minecraft. And only a little bit. And also not if they're a child, because there are racist children. Just, you can't, all you do is perpetuate the cycle. You can't, it's very frustrating. Listen, I understand some frustration here, but like, what do you carry this mentality forward forever. Okay, so it's the Russian people. So what do you want to do? What, do you want to powderize the entire country? Like, what are you suggesting? You realize the Ukrainians also themselves had an empire in times past, right? Like, what, do we just exchange hands now in a post-nuclear world? Like, I don't understand this. I don't understand this. There is no such thing, no real such thing as a national mentality. There's no such thing as a nation state, not in an essential sense. And you know what? There's also no such thing as the people. There are only persons grouped together at times for sociological categorization. But there isn't the idea of this mythological, the people, the Russian people. It's a myth. It's a myth created by people in power to direct groups of people against other groups of people. Always has the categorization been the tool of those who separate. As a gender abolitionist, we understand that while the sexes, male and female, may be things that we as humans, as mammals, are born with and live with, that doesn't change the fact that the roles assigned to both, men and women, have been categorical distinctions imposed to enforce the ways in which people are allowed to live their lives in wildly unnecessary ways. You know, maybe 10 trillion years ago, tribal societies felt it's, you know, socially useful to have like women who just gave birth breastfeed or whatever, and that should have been like a socially expected thing. But when you get to the 17th century and men's and women's clothing are both like $16,000 each of poofed fabric going in opposite directions, and there are very specific social etiquette protocols on how exactly to talk and curtsy at the other one, like, okay, clearly we have gone beyond any sort of biologically essentialist designation here. Race as well. Race as we understand it today, not a concept that we were born with. There have always been tribal groups, there have always been tribalist differences, but the idea that these differences were distinguished primarily by skin color was a product of scientific racism that emerged in the late 16th century, which was generally used as a post hoc way of explaining the justification for white people enslaving black people. Like, Europeans didn't enslave black people at first because they thought black people were worse and inferior and deserved slavery. They enslaved black people because of the trade routes they took to get to the New World. The fact that passing by the coast of Africa was relatively convenient and on the way, the fact that there were slavers in Africa who were willing to sell those slaves, the fact that they were relatively less capable of defending themselves and not organized into the proto-nation states that European powers were, all of the pre-existing systems were just conveniences. The post-system, the racial hierarchy, was invented to explain and to justify. And then, and then God willing, we get the fucking nation state. And it's just been a barrel of laughs since then, hasn't it? Now, we get a goddamn post-nuclear fragmented world where not a single square inch of territory outside the seventh continent is not a part of some other fucking country. You can't piss on a tree anywhere without violating some private or public standard ordinance. And the nation state drives itself to the line of every other nation state to the fucking molecule. There's no space left. There's nowhere on Earth, again, except for parts of Antarctica, which are uncolonizable unless you are incredibly fucking wealthy. And the fucking moon, have fun going over there. Elon Musk wants to conquer Mars, have fun with that. We have nothing left to the truly public commons. And what do we get for it? The idea that there's any difference between Americans and Canadians, or any difference between Americans and Mexicans, or any difference between the French, the English, the Irish, the Polish, the Hungarians, the Russians, the Mongolians, the Chinese, the South Koreans, and the Australians. There aren't. There are infinitely complex gradients of experience, of skin color, of geographic diversity, of language, of cultural affinity that bleed and blend together in a post-globalist world where anyone can move anywhere as long as they have the money to do so and the borders haven't been closed for some stupid fucking reason. By the way, another concept which is a product of the nation state. Try closing a border during a fucking, kingdom, like in a kingdom, in a monarchy. You can't do it. They didn't have social security numbers back then, but now it's possible because we track every single fucking citizen to just deny to human beings the ability to live within parts of the only planet we have. And there's nothing. All of this we made up for what? For convenience's sake? No, we made it up because powerful people find it much, much, much easier to lead armies against other powerful people when there are categorical distinctions they can place themselves within alongside the people they're controlling in an army, or in a bureaucracy, or in an administration, or in a serfdom, or a group of farmers, or a citizenry, or whatever else, or in an economy. What is the American economy? Can you tell me? How many companies exactly are a part of the American economy? Is a company a part of an American economy if it operates in America but its headquarters is in Hong Kong? What about if a country has a business within it that's owned by the United States, but all of the tax revenue goes to the U.S. government because the headquarters is somewhere in fucking Langley? What does it even mean for a company to be an American company or a Chinese company or a whatever? You know what it means? It means tax law. That's what it means. That's what it means to them, okay? It doesn't mean they're any more your people. It doesn't mean they're any more with you. It doesn't mean they're any closer to you geographically these days. It means which taxes they have to deal with. That's it. It is a mathematical calculation taking the guise of a geographic proximity, which they employ to delude people who buy shit in America that said it's made by an American company, that they're buying American, as though all the component parts that the American factory used to put the shit together weren't made in China and mined in Africa. It is a complete misdirection, but people buy into these categories. Now, I understand as a sociologist that categorizations can be very useful because even though these categories are arbitrary, unnecessary, and harmful, they still indicate things about human behavior, and we can learn about patterns by tracking them. But my God, do not get prescriptive on me. Do not with this, my people this, our people that, this people that. If I conked all of you over the head and fucking dumped you in the middle of the ocean until you swam desperate, head bleeding over to an island, all you have there are two people, okay? You can figure your coconut shit out however you like, but the nanosecond you fucks bring gender or race or, God forbid, nationality into the conversation you have after the fucking your head clears, you're doomed. It reminds me a little bit of legitimate, I think, UN-directed policy where they've talked about the potential nationality of any future moon colonists. I know it sounds far-fetched, but really think about it. The first colonization vessels that make it to the moon are invariably going to be controlled either by a corporation or by a government. So does the moon colony then become a colony of that government? Do they ever get to declare independence? My personal feeling, my personal thought is that we live fleetingly short lives, and it's very easy to kill a person too. We live very fragile lives. And the more of our time is wasted and the more of our lives worsened by approaching other people as transiently separate categories, as opposed to just people wearing a different set of clothing, the infinitely worse the human experience is. Because all these categories that I've talked about are as arbitrary and ever-changing as clothing. They're just clothes. And that doesn't mean they're meaningless, they're meaningful, but that does mean that they should be treated as what they are. Drapery over the important bit, which is the human being. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm ranting. Okay, there. There I ranted, I did my bit. That was more than 5 minutes.